American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
So now I'm obsessed with time. Come on, tell me about the time. Had it all in my hand tonight. Had the time of my life. When the words all come down like blues on Tuesdays come down. Throw it all away.
Welcome to episode 193 of American Timelines. Do I sound
Then
like
you say
Amy?
your name.
My name is Amy.
You're not Amy.
I'm Audrey, the one and only.
And I'm Joe, or Grover Cleveland Steamer, as some people call me.
Who's that?
That's my name. That's my podcast name.
You know what my podcast name is?
No? What? You're not very good at improvising.
I can't disclose it on here.
Well, this is a podcast. This is where you should disclose your podcast name on the podcast.
I don't think it's family friendly. No, I'm kidding.
That's okay. It doesn't have to be
My
family.
podcast name is Danny DeVito, so you know what to refer to me as.
Did you hear about that girl that went to prom?
She in here. Sorry, keep going.
Did you hear about that girl that went to prom she took a cardboard cutout of Danny DeVito to prom with her? And then,
I wish that was me.
And then Danny DeVito found out about it, and then he like went and he had a picture of her turned into a cardboard cutout, and then and took her to some kind of the cardboard cutout of her somewhere to a date. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
You didn't hear about that?
No. Was that on TikTok?
Yeah, it was somewhere on TikTok or something. And I heard about that recently, and I thought of you because you wanted to steal my cardboard cutout.
I didn't want to steal it. I wanted to borrow it.
I don't even know where that is now. I think.
Yeah, so you don't even use it.
Well, we put it in storage for the comedy festival. Anyway, welcome to another episode of American Timelines. My name is Joe, and Amy unfortunately is ill, so we have a replacement, and it is her 13-year-old daughter, Audrey. Her 13-year-old terrorist daughter, Audrey. Welcome, Audrey, to American Timelines.
Hello.
You've been on here before, haven't you?
Yeah.
Couple times.
I kind of regret it. Wasn't I like 9?
Well, that was the first time we did
Yeah.
what would a 9-year-old girl think.
If you've seen that episode, please
Listen to
please
the
delete
episode.
it from your brain.
From
Like
your
that is
brain?
really embarrassing.
No, it was adorable.
No, it wasn't. Cause like, why did I talk like that?
Because you had mentioned that you had to say no to drugs, and that you saw a video about kids doing crack and beer. And those were drugs in your mind.
I was so
funny.
annoyed. Hey. shut
Was?
up.
What do you mean was?
Well, you know what?
Still are. Let's get into the timeline. We're jumping into a new year, 1957. So we finished 1956 last episode. And Audrey, one thing we do here on American Timelines is when we start a new year, there are some things that happened in that year that I don't have like specific dates for, but it was like as of 1957, this happened. And here are some things I'm going to just go into to just share with you some things that happened in 1957, but we don't know exact dates.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm ready.
There's a guy named James Vickery. He's known for a movie theater experiment in 1957 in Fort Lee, New Jersey. And he announced that he had invented subliminal advertising.
What does that mean?
So this is why I was worried about having you on here, because I have to explain to you what subliminal means. But
No, I know.
so I'll explain. What does subliminal mean, do you think?
I think it means like you don't realize something's happening, but it's happening.
Yeah, kind of.
Like
So-
it's really conscious.
Yes. Yeah, exactly right. So he flashed the words hungry, eat popcorn, and thirsty, drink Coke very fast between film frames. So it was like a film, but every once in a while the film would just, the words hungry, eat popcorn would pop up on it like real fast. So you almost don't even realize it's there.
Yeah.
And he did that on purpose to try to get people to buy popcorn and Coke.
Yeah.
And he did a press release claiming that 45,699 people were exposed to these subliminal projections, telling them to eat popcorn and drink Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it caused a 57.5% sales increase for popcorn and an 18% increase in Coca-Cola sales.
You want to know how I know what subliminal means?
Now, how do you know what subliminal means?
Because this is going to sound kind of dumb.
Well, everything I say sounds dumb, so go
But
for it.
on TikTok,
Yeah. Oh,
there's
God.
accounts where, like, they pop up on my For You page, like, the videos. And they're called, like, subliminal something. And it's basically, it's like, interact 3 times to get your dream body or, like, your dream nose or to become popular, date your crush, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like you listen to the sound that they chose.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, it'll, like, happen if you just listen to it a lot. And they'll take screenshots from their, like, Instagram DMs, and it would be before and after photos.
Yeah.
And it would be, like, the slightest difference. And they'd be like, guys, look at my subliminal results. And everyone would be like, oh my God, I'm going to try it now.
They call them subliminal results?
Yeah, because you listen to it and
It makes you thinner?
Apparently.
Well, I'm sad about the state of affairs. Anyway, so this guy later, I guess, said he made it all up and didn't really happen to it. But it led to a widespread acceptance of subliminal messaging. Even today, people still believe in the subliminal messaging, that it works. Do you think it works?
Maybe. I don't know.
There was a guy named Kevin Nealon who used to be on Saturday Night Live, and he was called Subliminal Man. he would like tell things on the news, and he would just say the subliminal was real small. Like I can't think of it. I wish I could think of an example off the top of my head, but he'd be like, "Oh, there was a Republican convention today, idiots. They were meeting in a meeting, dumbasses. You know, and they spoke for 2 hours." Long-winded idiots, you know, things like that. Like where you just say that was Mr. Subliminal.
I feel like it works in, like, to a certain, like, extent, you know? Like, I don't think, like, listening to a TikTok sound will make you thinner overnight, but I think, like...
Now, that brings us into hypnotism. One time, my buddy Steve Bishop, who you know as Gruff from the Gruff and Loud Show on
Yeah.
YouTube, check it out. He and I were probably your age, maybe a little bit younger. We're probably in 5th grade, so we're a little bit younger. But we went with
younger.
We went with his mom to Cleveland, which is like 2 hours away. One time to spend the night at, like, her mom had a friend in Cleveland. They wanted to go out, and she couldn't get a babysitter, so she brought him with her, and he took me. So they got to go out to the bars while he and I just hung out at this strange apartment in Cleveland. And we ran out of stuff to do with this single woman's apartment, and we found a cassette tape that was a weight loss hypnotism tape. And it was basically, and we put it in and we listened to it. It said basically, lay down, turn off the lights, and close your eyes. And then it was just like a woman repeating, "You are not hungry. You will not eat. You will not eat any more snacks. You don't need
so
snacks."
Toxic.
It was just over and over and over. And it was like this poor lady was trying to lose weight listening to it. And we tried it. We tried to get hypnotized into losing weight. And I don't think it worked.
I see those, like...
Because we're both fat jerks now.
Those YouTube videos where it's like, it's always like the famous YouTubers or whatever, and they always like hire like a hypnotist, and like it always works. And I want to try that because I'm so skeptical about it. Like
No,
I don't
it
think
won't work. That's
I
why
don't
their
think it
YouTube
works.
page though it has to work.
Yeah, like
All right.
I don't think it works.
More things about 1957. Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Corporation, which ended up becoming Sony later, produced a pocket-sized radio for the first time in 1957. But the radio, unfortunately, was too big to fit in an actual pocket. So Akio Morita, the co-founder of Sony, made his employees wear shirts with larger pockets to give the radio a pocket-sized appearance.
That's so stupid.
Killer bees. Do you know, have you ever heard of killer bees? When I was a kid, when I was your age, I was afraid of killer bees. Have you ever heard of killer bees?
I've heard of wasps where they're like stings are poisonous.
Yeah, but you've never been afraid of the killer bees are coming. They're coming down from the
I'm not
south,
afraid
and they're
of
coming up. The
bees.
killer bees are coming, and they're going to take over and kill everyone. Swarms of killer bees.
I'm not afraid of bees.
You're not? Well,
No.
when I was a kid, I was afraid of these killer bees that were supposedly coming, and I found out in 1957 is when killer bees were made. They were a man-made hybrid species that are only found in the wild because African honeybees accidentally escaped from a scientist in Brazil. And then they met with the local European honeybees and created a more aggressive bee, although the hybrids have a little less venom. But it all began in a lab near Rio Claro in Brazil around 1957. Biologist Warwick E. Kerr was commissioned by the Brazilian government to create a species of bee that produced more honey. So he was trying to make more honey. And that European species of honeybees have been introduced to South America, but unfortunately they proved to be fairly unproductive in the sleepy heat of Brazil. So these European bees didn't work because it was too hot.
Mm-hmm.
So they just sat in a hammock all day drinking lemonade, according to Eric Musson at UC Davis. That was kind of a joke. But he said, not having much experience with animal breeding, this Dr. Kerr thought that if he could introduce into European honeybees some African genes, the results would be a hybrid that would work better at collecting honey in a tropical setting because they're used to being in a hotter temperature than the temperate climate European honeybees. And so that's how the whole thing happened. That's why the whole thing happened. They escaped, and they became killer bees. But I don't think they're going to come. I don't think anybody's going to get destroyed by killer bees. This is actually, according to lflscience.com, or said iflscience.com. I read that article. So there you go. Wait, the Cadillac Eldorado Brougham was a car. It was a new car in 1957 that came standard with a mini bar in the glove compartment.
I want a mini bar in my glove compartment.
You open up the glove compartment, it was a bunch of alcohol.
That's how.
So you could drink while you're driving.
In a Disney movie,
Yeah.
like a long time ago. Well, not a long time ago, but like 5 years ago-ish.
Yeah.
It's
For
called-
you, that's a long time
It's
ago.
called Descendants. You know that one? And basically, they like, in a summary, they got in a limo because they were going somewhere, and the limo had a whole
Mini bar?
like a big thing of but it wasn't alcohol obviously because it was a Disney show, so it was all candy and like soda and stuff.
Oh, so for
And
you, a mini bar is candy and soda and
And
stuff.
so I always wanted that. I was like, I'm gonna get
Someday.
And I was like, I'm gonna get that in my car.
Also, 1957, a large cheese pizza from Pizza Hut was $1.50. You know how much a large pizza is now? You probably don't have any reference for this.
like $6.
$6?
I don't know.
It's probably $15, bruh.
Okay, calm down.
Okay,
bruh.
have you ever heard of Kent cigarettes?
Yeah, it's my favorite brand.
They had asbestos filters from 1952 to 1957. They were marketed as offering the greatest health protection in the history of cigarettes with asbestos filters.
That doesn't make any sense.
Asbestos is not good for you. Okay. Also in 1957, bubble wrap was accidentally invented.
I love bubble wrap.
Alfred Fielding and Mark Chauvinus accidentally invented it. They were trying to create plastic wallpaper,
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
and it didn't sell well. And then they tried to market it as a greenhouse insulator, and that didn't sell well. So they eventually decided to sell it as bubble wrap. You knew that's how bubble wrap came?
Yeah.
How'd
I
you
think
know
I saw
that?
it on TikTok.
Everything is on TikTok. Do you ever search things on TikTok? If you want to know something, you just
It's
search it
usually-
on TikTok?
Usually I Google it, but if it's something about like drama between two like influencers, then I'll look it up on TikTok because like everybody on TikTok.
Influencers.
But it's so annoying.
Influencers.
It's so annoying because like
Ugh.
you want to know something that happened and then you search it up and it's like a 3-minute video explaining like this and this and somebody's backstory. Like I really don't care. Just get to the point.
Oh my gosh. That's what's wrong with society, folks. And I think we have a lot of listeners that are older that like true crime and like to listen to two Gen Xers, and they're listening to a young Zoomer at this point, talk about TikTok and influencers. And I'm going to take your phone if you don't start listening.
I'm sorry. I'm listening. No, I swear I'm listening. I just need to.
You can't be doing two things at once.
I just need to talk to Peyton.
Do we need to take a break?
Can I just send her this one sentence? Please. Just one last sentence. Okay, hold on. Let me get this.
This is the problem with America's youth. They can't focus on anything.
Well-
They can't put their phones down for a second. I have trouble putting my phone down because I want to do a lot of things. I want to tinker with my fantasy lineup. I want to check Twitter.
Okay. Wait, hold on. Sorry.
No, I'm giving you your phone back when we get to your story. This is ridiculous.
Okay. I'm ready to listen.
Give me your phone.
No, I'm ready to listen.
I'll give it back to you when
I'm
we
here,
get to your
I'm
thing.
here,
No,
I'm here.
you're
Watch
not.
it.
There you go.
You guys are gonna be so proud of me when you guys hear. I
Okay.
made the
Do
beta
you
call.
know the next thing I got to tell you? I got to find out if you know this. Do you know the mascots of the Republican and Democratic Party? Like they each have an
Yeah,
animal.
the elephant and the donkey.
Boom. Okay, you
The
do know
ass.
some stuff. 13 years old, you know. So in 19
Oh my bad, I burped.
that's inappropriate. In 1957, when Democratic President Harry Truman visited Disneyland, he refused to ride the Dumbo the Elephant ride because the elephant is a symbol of the Republican Party.
But Dumbo.
Yeah, but he wouldn't ride it because it was an elephant. All right, I'm going to have to skip a couple things. I'm gonna
Why are you
that.
skipping so much?
Because I can't even. I'd have to spend more time explaining to you what it means.
Okay.
The director of the Detroit Public Library in 1957 banned The Wizard of Oz for having no value for children of today and for supporting negativism.
There was a theory. There's a theory about the Wizard of Oz.
There is?
Hold on. You know, like how, like everything, the backstory of it was like really bad. Like Judy Garland, I'm pretty sure played Dorothy. I don't know, but whoever played Dorothy,
Yeah, it was Judy Garland.
like they smoked like 10 packs of cigarettes a day or something. I don't know if
She was
that's
a
true or
little
not.
kid.
Yeah, but I don't know if, but she smoked like a lot of, like she smoked like a ton of cigarettes a day for some reason. And the second one was like the snow. You know the snow in that movie?
Yeah.
It was like this really toxic, like, thing. Like it was super toxic, and they like I don't know if they got sick, but it was like poisonous.
Wasn't she like a child?
Yeah, she did 80 cigarettes a day.
Judy Garland's strict diet while filming The Wizard of Oz consisted of chicken soup, black coffee, and up to 80 cigarettes a day.
Yeah, and then she like the snow. You can search up the snow.
So
Was,
she
like-
must have stunk. What was wrong with the snow?
The snow was like toxic. It was like poisonous.
The fake snow?
It was like they had something in it. It was poisonous. And then the last thing. I'm pretty sure this was a. Yeah, this was like debunked. Like it wasn't true.
So you're going to say it anyway?
But yeah, because it's interesting. In the one scene where they're all the characters like skipping down the yellow brick road,
Yeah?
people claimed that they saw like a hanging munchkin in the tree,
Oh, boy.
and there wasn't.
That's
It was
not
like
true.
it was something else. I don't know what it was, but it was not a hanging
It's like 3 Men and a
munchkin.
Baby. There's supposedly a ghost in the background of one of the scenes. in the
It might have
window.
been that, but everybody,
That's not true.
people thought it was like a hanging munchkin. I was
Well,
like, why would
anyway.
why would they film with that?
Are you are you familiar with the film or the comic strip, The Peanuts? You know who the Peanuts gang is?
Yes,
Who? Who's the main character?
Charlie Brown.
Okay, wow, you do know. So that started in 1950, but at that time Charlie Brown was only a 4-year-old. And then in 1957 they made him 6 years old. And then since 1979 he's been about 8 years old. I don't know why I kept that in there. All right, now we're going to jump into the timeline. We're just going to jump in. That was a big nothing burger. So we're going to jump into January 1957. Are you ready to hear some things?
Yes.
January 6, 1957. Do you know who Elvis Presley is?
No. Yes, I know
Yeah, you
who it
do.
is.
Do you love Elvis Presley?
I don't
So
know.
did you ever hear about him being on TV? Like when he became a rock star, rock and roll was brand new, right? And so they didn't do stuff. It wasn't, music couldn't be fast and loud like it is. And people did not like his gyrating. He gyrated his hips and everybody thought that was way too sexual. Did you know that?
It was a little weird.
It's a little weird, but people didn't do anything like that at all. But women
Yeah.
loved it and they screamed. But on January 6, 1957, it was his third and final appearance on Ed Sullivan, which was like the main evening talk show. It'd be like Jimmy Fallon now.
Yeah.
And this was the legendary moment when CBS censors wouldn't allow his entire body to be shown. So they only showed him from the waist up because they didn't want his gyrating to be on TV. Did you know that?
It's gyrating.
They didn't? That's what
It sounds
people...
like an STD.
Well, in the 50s, like your great-grandmother, rest in peace, Gigi, her generation didn't like this kind of stuff.
if
Elvis
you heard
and
the
stuff.
word gyrate, you would think it was an infection.
You think?
I would think it's an infection.
Well, this was when Elvis was on Ed Sullivan gyrating his hips, moving his hips. but it kind of added more to his mystique as people couldn't. But the audience would scream. The girls would all scream. I guess the director of the Ed Sullivan Show decided to do this because when Elvis was on his second time, he put a cardboard tube down the front of his trousers and manipulated it to make the studio audience scream.
What do you mean, to make him look like he
I guess it was looked
got
like
a boner?
a wiener, I guess.
It's a little weird.
That I don't know if that's true. That was an explanation
You
by
know
a
the
former director of the Ed Sullivan
you know
Show.
like the new like Elvis Presley movie thing with Austin Butler who plays him?
Oh, I maybe have heard of this. What about it?
Like it got really big, and Austin Butler was like so into the role that like after that like he's like been speaking like Elvis Presley, so it's
Like he's like a crazy guy that thinks he's Elvis Presley.
well, he just like got so like deep into the role, like he just like speaks like Elvis Presley. Like stop.
That's weird. Jim
They're
Carrey
weird.
kind of did that with Andy Kaufman.
Who's Andy Kaufman?
Andy Kaufman basically, I was told today I look like him with my stupid haircut.
Yeah, that's not stupid. You look good.
Now today somebody told me I look like Andy Kaufman.
They can kill themselves.
Whoa!
So I probably shouldn't say
I'll show
that.
you what Andy Kaufman looks like.
I probably should not.
He's
say
not
that.
attractive. Let me tell you that much. Oops.
What did he do?
He was a comedian. Is that what I look like? That's what I look like.
You don't look like him.
My hair looks like that though.
A little bit.
See, my hair looks
But
gross.
the
I gotta
haircut
get it
isn't
cut.
bad. Okay.
I gotta get it cut. Anyway, okay, now we're gonna do. We'll see if you hate birthdays or not, because we're gonna do a birthday. Our first birthday, January 15th. Do you like birthdays? Do you hate birthdays?
That's the
Celebrity
day
birthday?
before mine.
January 15th, day before you. All right. Mario Van Peebles was born. He was a Mexican actor. I didn't know he was born in Mexico City. I thought he was an African American gentleman. But he was born in Mexico City, Mexico, and he's the son of writer, director, actor, musician Melvin Van Peebles and German actress and photographer Maria Marx. You probably don't know any of the Van Peebleses, do you? You don't know who I'm talking about.
I was born on the same day as Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Really?
Have that going
Not the
for
same
me.
day.
Yes.
I mean, not the same date, but the
Yeah.
same day. You're not the same age. All right, so I was really excited to share this one with your mom because she'd have been like, why are we talking about Mario Van Peebles? But Mario Van Peebles' father was an awesome blaxploitation director, and you probably don't know what that is. But in the 70s, there was all these cool films starring black people that were like cool and funky and stuff like that. So Melvin Van Peebles was famous. Then Mario Van Peebles was kind of a younger guy, and he was a director as well. But he's a famous movie director and actor, I think, and I think he did comedy too. But he met your uncle. Uncle Ando met him one time.
That's so crazy.
And Uncle Ando happened to meet him when he met Mario Van Peebles. Your Uncle Andy had a T-shirt on at the time that said, he bought the shirt because it was funny. It said, "Guns don't kill people." You know the end of that statement? Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
So he had a shirt that said, "Guns don't kill people, Mario Van Peebles," which makes no sense. It's just funny. But
I would be so embarrassed.
But he met Mario Van Peebles while he was wearing that shirt. Mario Van Peebles thought that was so great. He asked him if he could have the shirt. And so your Uncle Ando took his shirt off and gave it to him. And then Mario Van Peebles gave him a hat because he was directing Shaft, or he was directing Badass, I think, at the time, which is a movie about his dad, I think. So anyway, long story short, Mario Van Peebles was born January 15th, 1957, and you don't know who that is. Okay? And now we are going to talk about the one I told you I'm going to wing it. January 22nd. A mad bomber named George Metesky was born.
That's crazy.
So we're going to get into this one, okay? I'm going to start backwards. So, accompanied by Waterbury police, 4 New York Police Department detectives arrived at Metesky's home with a search warrant shortly before midnight on Monday, January 1st, 1957. They asked him for a handwriting sample and to make a letter G. He made the G, looked up and said, "I know why you fellas are here. You think I'm the mad bomber." The detectives asked what FP stood for, and he responded, "FP stands for fair play." He led them to the garage workshop where they found his lathe. Back in the house, they found pipes and connectors suitable for bombs hidden in the pantry, as well as 3 cheap pocket watches. flashlight batteries, brass terminal knobs, and unmatched wool socks of the type used to transport the bombs. Metesky had answered the door in pajamas. After he was ordered to get dressed for the trip to Waterbury Police Headquarters, he reappeared wearing a double-breasted suit buttoned.
Why would he give himself away like that though?
Well, I think they already had him, and here's what all happened. So Metesky's first bomb was in 1940 to 41. It was a crude, short length of brass pipe filled with gunpowder, with an ignition mechanism made of sugar and flashlight batteries, enclosed in a wooden toolbox, and he left it on a Consolidated Edison power plant windowsill. It was found before it could go off. It was wrapped in a note written in distinctive block letters and signed FP, stating, "Con Edison crooks, this is for you."
Oh.
Some investigators wonder if the bomb was an intentional dud, since if it had exploded, the note would have been obliterated. So they weren't sure. And then in September of 1941, a bomb with a similar ignition mechanism was found lying in the street about 5 blocks away from the Consolidated Edison headquarters. And this one had no note, but it was also a dud. Police theorized that the bomber might have spotted a police officer and dropped the bomb without setting its fuse. So those are the first two bombs. And shortly after that second bomb, the police received a letter in block capital letters. And it said, "I will make no more bomb units for the duration of the war," because World War II had just started. "Mm-hmm. My patriotic feelings have made me decide this. Later, I will bring the Con Edison to justice. They will pay for their dastardly deeds." Now, 1951 to 1956, true to his word, Metesky planted no bombs between 41 and 51 during the war, choosing instead to send letters and postcards to police stations, newspapers, private citizens, and Con Edison. Investigators studied the penciled block letter messages, noted that the letters G and Y had an odd shape, possibly indicating European education. The long hiatus since the last bomb and the improved construction techniques of the first new bomb led investigators to believe that the bomber had served the military. For the new wave of bombings, Metesky mainly chose public buildings as targets, bombing several of them multiple times. Bombs were left in phone booths, storage lockers, and restrooms in public buildings, including Grand Central Terminal 5 times, Pennsylvania Station, Radio City Music Hall, the New York Public Library, and
do these places not have cameras?
And more. No, this is 1950s. 50s. They don't have cameras. He left them in the subway. He bombed movie theaters where he cut into the seat upholstery and slipped explosive devices inside. This is all between 51 and 56. All kinds of bombs.
Why would you do it? Like, what's the point? Unless there's somebody that you hate, why would you just kill a ton of innocent people? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, he was upset about the Consolidated Edison headquarters. The electricity company is who they were.
So then why did he have to bomb all these places? Why didn't he just bomb that place?
Well, he's crazy. And so he left a note. They found another note in the 50s that said, "Bombs will continue until the Consolidated Edison company is brought to justice for their dastardly acts against me. I have exhausted all other means. I intend with bombs to cause others to cry out for justice for me." The letter directed police to the Paramount Theater in Times Square, where a bomb was discovered and disabled, and to a telephone booth at Pennsylvania Station, where nothing was found. On November 28th, a coin-operated locker at the IRT 14th Street subway station was bombed without injury. Near the end of the year, the Herald Tribune received another letter warning, "Have you noticed the bombs in your city? If you are worried, I am sorry. And also, if anyone is injured. But it cannot be helped, for justice will be served. I am not well, and for this I will make the Con Edison sorry. Yes, they will regret their dastardly deeds. I will bring them before the bar of justice. Public opinion will condemn them, for beware, I will place more units under theater seats in the near future. FP."
That's so weird.
Yeah, it's crazy guy. Leaving bombs. Can you imagine how crazy worried everybody would be?
I would never want to go anywhere.
In 1952, a phone booth at the Port Authority bus terminal exploded. No injury there. 1953, bombs exploded in seats at Radio City Music Hall and at the Capitol Theater with no injuries. A bomb again exploded near the Oyster Bar in Grand Central Terminal, this time in a coin-operated rental locker. Again, no injuries. Police described this one as a homemade product of a publicity-seeking jerk. A fat jerk like me. An unexpected bomb was found in a rental locker at Pennsylvania Station in 1956. A 74-year-old men's room attendant at Pennsylvania Station was seriously injured when a bomb in a toilet bowl exploded. A young man had reported an obstruction, and the attendant tried to clear it using a plunger. Among the porcelain fragments, investigators found a watch frame and a wool sock. A guard at the RCA building in Rockefeller Center discovered a piece of pipe about 5 inches long in a phone booth. A second guard thought it might be useful in a plumbing project, took it home on the bus to New Jersey, where it exploded on his kitchen table early the next morning. No one was injured. A December 2nd bombing in 1956 at the Paramount Theater in Brooklyn left 6 of the theater's 1,500 occupants injured, one seriously, and drew tremendous news coverage and editorial attention. The next day, Police Commissioner Stephen P. Kennedy ordered what he called the greatest manhunt in the history of the police department. On December 24th, a New York Public Library clerk using a phone booth dropped a coin. Looking up after he retrieved it, he saw a maroon-colored sock held to the underside of the shelf by a magnet. The sock contained an iron pipe with a threaded cap on each end. After consulting with other employees, he threw the device out a window into Bryant Park, bringing the bomb squad and more than 60 police officers and detectives to the scene. In a letter to the New York Journal-American the next month, Metesky said that the public library bomb, as well as the one discovered later that same week inside a seat at the Times Square Paramount, had been planted months before. Throughout the investigation, the prevailing theory was that the bomber was a former Con Ed employee with a grudge against the company. Con Edison employment records were reviewed, but there were hundreds of other leads, tips, and crank letters to be followed up on. Detectives ranged far and wide, checking lawsuit records, mental hospital admissions. Citizens turned in neighbors who behaved oddly, coworkers who seemed to know too much about bombs. A new group, the Bomb Investigation Unit, was formed to work on nothing but bomb leads. In April 1956, the department issued a multi-state alert for a person described as a skilled mechanic with access to a drill press or lathe, which he had, for his ability to thread pipe, who posted mail from White Plains, was over 40, and had a deep-seated hatred of the Consolidated Edison Company.
That wasn't the bomber, though, right?
They were describing him. They were starting to describe him. Yeah, they were trying to figure out who he was. A warning circular picturing a homemade pipe bomb similar to the bomb was distributed. Police distributed samples of the bomber's distinctive printing and asked anyone who might recognize it to notify them. A review of driver's license applications in White Plains.
Wait, so I missed that. Why did he have a grudge against this company?
We haven't figured this out yet.
Okay.
The city favored by the bomber for posting his mail found similarities in 500 people to the bomber's printing. The names were forwarded to the New York Police Department for investigation. The December 2nd bombing of the Brooklyn Paramount drew tremendous news coverage and editorial attention. The following day, Police Commissioner Stephen P. Kennedy met with commanders of every New York Police Department division and ordered what he called the greatest manhunt in the history of the police department, calling the bomber's activities an outrage that cannot be tolerated. He promised an immediate good promotion to whoever arrested the bomber and directed commanders to alert every member of the force of the absolute necessity of capture. They issued a $26,000 reward for the bomber's apprehension. They figured he was a male because historically bombers are male. They studied mental patients, and they figured he'd be an average build because most mental patients are average build, I guess. They think he's 40 to 50 is when people get paranoid. They think he's precise, neat, and tidy based on his letters. They printed this profile, and put it out to people to be on the lookout. They thought he was a single man between 40 and 50, introvert, unsocial, skilled mechanic. He's got to be neat with tools, all this stuff. The newspapers published a profile on Christmas Day of 56, alongside the so-called Christmas Eve bomb. The story about this Christmas Eve bomb in the public library. By the end of the month, bomb hoaxes and false confessions had risen to epidemic proportions. Everybody wants fame, and so they're all doing this shit. So the day after the profile was published, the New York Journal-American published an open letter prepared in cooperation with the police, urging the bomber to give himself up. The newspaper promised a fair trial and offered to publish his grievances. Metesky wrote back the next day, signing his letter FP. He said he would not be giving himself up and revealed a wish to bring the Con Edison to justice. He listed all the locations where he had placed bombs that year and seemed concerned that perhaps not all had been discovered. Later in the letter, he said, "My days on earth are numbered. Most of my adult life has been spent in bed. My one consolation is that I can strike back even from my grave for the dastardly acts against me." After some editing by police, the newspaper published his letter on January 10th, along with another open letter asking him for more information about his grievances. In the second letter he wrote, provided some details about the materials used in the bombs. And he also said, "When a motorist injures a dog, he must report it. Not so with an injured workman. He rates less than a dog. I tried to get my story to the press. I tried hundreds of others. I typed tens of thousands of words. Nobody cared. I determined to make these dastardly acts known. I had plenty of time to think. I decided on bombs." The police published that letter on January 15th and asked the bomber for further details and dates about his compensation case so that a new and fair hearing could be held.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to get information from him. His third letter was received by the newspaper on Saturday, January 19th. The letter complained of lying unnoticed for hours on cold concrete after his injury without any first aid being rendered, then developing pneumonia and later tuberculosis. Later added details about his lost compensation case and the perjury of his coworkers and gave the date of his injury, September 5th, 1931. The letter suggests that if he did not have a family that would be branded by his giving himself up, he might consider doing so to get his compensation case reopened. He thanked the Journal American for publicizing his case and said the bombings will never be resumed. The letter was published Tuesday, the day after Metesky was arrested. So they identified him because Con Edison clerk Alice Kelly had for days been scouring company workers' compensation files for employees with a serious health problem. On Friday, January 18th, 1957, while searching the final batch of troublesome workers' compensation case files, those that had threats that were made or implied, she found a file marked in red with the words injustice and permanent disability, words that had been printed in the Journal American. The file indicated that one George Metesky, an employee from 1929 to 1931, had been injured in a plant accident on September 5th, 1931. Several letters from Metesky in the file used wording similar to the letters in the Journal American letters, including the phrase dastardly deeds. The police were notified shortly before 5 that evening. They initially treated the notification as just one of a number of leads they were working on, but asked Waterbury police to do a discreet check on George Metesky and the house at 17th 4th Street. So that's kind of how they found him. They pretty much, that's it. It's going to get him. So January 31st, 1957, there was a mid-air collision by two airplanes. A Douglas DC-7B operated by Douglas Aircraft Company was involved in a mid-air collision with a U.S. Air Force Northrop F-89 Scorpion, crashed into the schoolyard of Pacoima Junior High School, located in Pacoima, a suburb area in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles. Can you imagine if two planes crashed in your schoolyard?
I would be freaked out.
Wouldn't you be upset?
Everybody would be. Well, I would be upset if somebody got hurt. But if nobody got hurt, then everyone would be talking about it,
Yep. On the school playground when it crashed were 220 boys ending their outdoor athletic activities. The wreckage broke upon impact into numerous pieces, and intense fires began due to the aircraft's fuel and oil. Distinct craters were made in the playground by each of the four engines, as well as the main center fuselage section. 2 students were struck and killed by this wreckage and debris. A third, gravely injured student, died 2 days later in a local hospital. An estimated number of at least 75 more students of the school playground suffered injuries ranging from critical to minor. Can you imagine? Wouldn't you just have nightmares the rest of your life?
I would.
If that happened? Oh, yeah. The plane crashed. I was the victim of the plane crashing in our playground.
But we don't have a playground.
You don't have a playground? Middle
No.
schools don't anymore, do they?
We have 10 fields.
You just got fields because you're out in the
We have 10
boondocks.
fields, but we don't have we have a softball field, we have a baseball field, we have a soccer field, but we don't have a football field.
You don't have a slide or merry-go-rounds?
I wish.
All right. We're jumping in February now. February 1st, 1957. Here's a little story. When Northeast Airlines Flight 823 crashed on Rikers Island on February 1st, Rikers is a famous prison island. prisoners were released from the prison building to help pull people from the wreckage of this crash.
If I was a prisoner, I would run away.
Some of those prisoners had their sentences commuted or reduced for acts of heroism during the incident.
Never mind, I would not run away.
Well, yeah, if you were a hero, they'd let you do that. You shouldn't be in prison anyway.
I would never be in prison.
February 5th, 1957, Perry Henry Young Jr. became the first African-American pilot for a regularly scheduled airline in the U.S.
Yay.
After weeks, he was an American aviator who trained the Tuskegee Airmen. Have you heard of the Tuskegee Airmen?
No.
You should look that up. They were amazing World War II African-American pilots that were heroes. It's a big, huge thing. Tuskegee Airmen. You should look that up and be proud that you know it. Okay? That's something they don't teach you in school.
Yeah,
because they
kinda
don't teach
weird.
you cool stuff like that. On February 14th, 1957, some 10 years after, do you know who Jackie Robinson is? Have you ever heard of him, the baseball player? You do?
Yeah.
You know what he did? He broke the Major League color barrier. So 10 years after Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, a bill was put forth by Senator Leon Butts barring Negro players to play baseball with white players.
What does that mean? Like barring, like they can't?
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, they didn't want. This was in Georgia. They didn't want black players to be able to play with white players.
That's why his last name is Butts.
10 years after, he was a butthead. At the time, Georgia didn't have any major league teams. I don't know where the Braves played originally, but they weren't in Atlanta yet. But they did have several minor league teams, and some major league teams played spring training in Atlanta. And it passed. They passed it because they were so freaking racist still in 1957.
Yeah.
Isn't that awful?
Yeah.
The Georgia Senate unanimously approved his bill, barring...
Like, it's a game.
I know.
How are you going to segregate a game?
It barred black people from playing baseball with white people, except at religious gatherings.
That's like saying, oh, you're black. You can't play hide and seek with me.
Isn't it ridiculous?
Like, what?
That's how things were. They really were like that.
So stupid.
And the fine was up to $1,000 in imprisonment for 60 days for anybody letting black people play with white people. Isn't that awful?
That's so
The Braves and the
horrible.
Cardinals both played spring training there, which was a problem. It's just ridiculous. It's just awful, and people think it's so racism was millions of years ago, and it really
It's
wasn't that
still
long
still
ago.
happening.
It still happens. I mean, luckily, this specifically doesn't happen, but there's definitely people who wish that was the case, probably.
Yeah.
Awful, awful people. But that brings us to February 25th, 1957. You're going to tell us, I guess, an awful, awful story that is tragic, right? You have a tragic story to tell us that your mom was going to cover, so
I'm
she did all the
pretty
research,
sure.
and you're going to just read it word for what she wrote down?
Yeah.
And that, after you're done, that'll be the end of the podcast. That's the episode.
Okay.
So tell this story, and I'm
So-
going to be a bad parent for letting my daughter talk about
Okay,
it.
so this story is called The Boy in the Box. So on February 25th, 1957,
Yeah.
a young muskrat hunter set out to check his traps set near a park just north of Philadelphia.
Okay.
As he moved through the brush, he found a small cardboard box lying like discarded on the ground.
Okay.
Inside was the naked body of a boy wrapped up in a plaid blanket, so he had to be small.
Yeah, to fit in a box.
Fearing the police would confiscate his traps if he alerted them to the box, the young hunter ignored it and resumed hunting. What is
He just
wrong with
ignored. He found a person in a box and he just ignored it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I would be haunted. Several days later, a college student driving down the road noticed a bunny alongside the highway. Running alongside the highway. The student knew where there were traps in the area and stopped just to make sure the animal was safe.
I was trying to keep the bunny safe.
Yeah, as he sifted through the underbrush searching for traps, he came across the box. Though he too feared interaction with the police, the student reported the body to them. Given that the boy was young, between 3 and 7 years old, police were hopeful that he could be...
But not a baby. It's not a baby.
Yeah,
This is a kid.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Police were hopeful that he could be quickly identified. However, once they saw the body, their hopes were dashed. While people would surely be looking for a missing boy who was healthy, well cared for, and clearly loved, it was unlikely that he would be looking for a scrawny, dirty, malnourished one. Scrawny, dirty, malnourished one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the boy in the box was just that. His hair was matted and seemed to have been recently cut, as clumps of it still clung to his body.
Ugh.
His body was severely malnourished and covered with surgical scars, most notably on his ankle, groin, and chin.
Ugh.
So he must have had like stuff wrong with him.
Yeah, probably had surgery as a baby or something.
Oh yeah, he was young. The boy was estimated to be between 4 and 6 years old, weighed 30 pounds, and stood 3 feet 3 inches.
Poor little
Stop! This
guy.
is so sad. Blunt force trauma was the cause of death from head injuries. Despite the fact that he looked abandoned, police fingerprinted him, hoping to find a match. Sadly, no one did. There was no record that the boy ever existed.
Ugh.
It wasn't possible to accurately estimate the time of death, so they kept the boy in the morgue, and visitors from over 10 states came to try to identify the boy.
Yeah, kids that were missing and stuff.
Yeah, looking for specific marks to no avail. Police sent out over 400,000 flyers of images of the boy to police stations, post offices, and courthouses all over the country. Even the AMA sent out a description of the boy, but it went nowhere. The police compared the child's footprint to those in area hospitals. And here are the key clues. The box had a serial number that traced back to a J.C. Penney's 15 miles away. It had been used to ship a bassinet. The store shipped 12 of these bassinets, but all purchases laid on cash, leaving no record.
Oh, no.
I feel like he could have been from a different country.
Well, but I'm thinking if the bassinets, these are somebody who bought a bassinet because they had a baby.
Yeah.
And so it seems like...
I feel like once he got old enough, they just abandoned him. Because he was
how did he
like
get
too
in that
old
box,
to
though?
take care of.
Well, that or they just like... Well, they killed him, obviously, blunt force trauma. But it was probably someone... I mean, there were some backwoods, podunk places and people that probably... Who knows? Ugh.
8 purchases ended up contacting the police when they read about it in the paper. They wanted to go on record that they either still had the boxes or sent it out for trash collection.
Or on record, they did not kill their babies.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Police were about to determine that the box was shipped to Upper Darby, Pennsylvania. The next one was the blanket, examined by Philadelphia Textile Institute, who said it was made in either Canada or North Carolina. But there was no way to tell where this blanket was purchased because thousands were bought and sold. Ultimately, the blanket lead was a dead end. Another clue was a hat found 15 feet away from the box, a blue corduroy Ivy League cap about size 7 1/8. It was labeled Eagle Hat and Cap Company, made by the shop's owner in South Philadelphia. Hannah Robbins remembered the man who bought the hat because she had customized it for him. He was described as blonde, between ages 26 and 30, and requested that a leather strap and buckle be added to the hat. He paid in cash, and she never saw him again. Detectives visited over 100 stores in the area, no leads. There were also strands of hair on the boy's body, suggesting a hasty haircut. One forensic artist named Frank Bender believed the boy was possibly raised as a girl. I know some like cases like that. Like they had a boy, but they wanted a girl, so they just pretended it was a girl.
Just pretended it was a girl?
Not pretended, but like told everyone it was a girl, and they were like, no, like I'm a boy, like I like boy stuff, like not boy stuff.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you mean.
Like commercialized boy stuff. Like they said, I'm not a girl.
Oh wow. Never heard of that.
Yeah. In fact, Bill Kelly, an original investigator of the case, did say that in 1957 and 1958, a West Coast artist did circulate a rendition of the boy as a girl, but it never produced any leads. Over the next several years, over 400,000 flyers were sent out to the Philadelphia area, as well as other towns in Pennsylvania. A forensic facial reconstruction was done. A drawing of a happy young boy was included on all of the posters. Flyers were posted in police stations, post offices, and even included in the envelopes with gas bills, but still no one came forward with information. So, like, nobody must have known about it.
Nobody knew anything about this.
And even if they did, they probably had some type of part in it.
Or I wonder if it was like, like there's stories of girls who get pregnant and don't tell anybody,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
go, or even if their parents are real strict and they don't want anybody, they don't tell anybody, they make her go hide away from everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, man. In the 50s is crazy.
The crime scene itself was searched several times, but apart from several items of the children's clothing, all of which led nowhere, there were no leads. To this day, the boys' identities remains as much a mystery as it was in 1957. Though the case has run cold, the publicity and interest in the case by amateur investigators have turned up a couple notable theories throughout the years.
I was like, can't they do DNA now?
Right. They probably don't have the body anymore.
You don't think?
No. They're probably like decomposed or something. This is the first theory about the case. In 1960, an employee of the medical examiner's office was told by a psychic that the boy in the box had come from a local foster home. The police inquired about the boy at a foster home and found blankets similar to the one he had been wrapped in hanging on the clothesline,
Oh, really?
as well as a bassinet that had been sold in the same box that the boy had been found in.
Oh.
The employee theorized that the boy who had been born to the daughter of a man who ran the foster home, and that his death had been accidental. Despite the employee's insistence of these facts, no connection was ever made between the boy in the box and the foster home.
Huh.
It wasn't until 40 years later that another shocking theory emerged.
Oh, what's this one?
A woman, referred to only as M, came forward claiming that the boy had been purchased by her abusive mother and abused for several years in her home. Purchased?
The boy was purchased by the mother?
Yeah. M claimed that after the boy vomited up his dinner of baked beans, his mother had bashed his head against the wall as punishment. Oh my God.
Jeez.
Then she'd attempted to bathe him, during which he had died. I would not touch a woman. I would not trust a woman that only goes by M.
Yeah, well, I mean, trying to stay unidentifiable.
Yeah. The police initially followed this lead as there were remains of baked beans in the boy's stomach, and his fingers appeared to be water wrinkled. Those were both pieces of information that were never shared with the public. They were also encouraged by M's description of the boy as a small child with long hair. This fit their theory that his hair had been recently chopped. Unfortunately, police eventually let the theory slide as they were unable to verify M's claims. After looking into M's background, they found a history of severe mental illness. When they attempted to corroborate her claims with neighbors and friends, all of them denied ever seeing a child in the home. The theory was eventually dismissed as ridiculous. But then how would she know that there's baked beans in his stomach?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Theory number 3. Authors Lou Romano and Jim Hoffman, who came across a lead from a man in Philadelphia who said his family once rented a place to a man who sold his son, possibly the boy in the box. A forensic pathologist compared facial structure of the man to the boy in the box and did see similarities, but did not test further. Several other theories have been presented over the years, though all of them have eventually been discounted. It seems that the mystery of the boy in the box might never be solved, and that America's unknown child could remain that way forever.
Yeah, I guess if they don't have the...
That's so messed up, though. Like, I could never, that's so disgusting. Just abusing a child that young for throwing up something.
It's awful.
What is wrong with people? Apparently this is what he looked like.
Oh, yeah, I saw pictures of where they recreated him, kind of like...
It's not okay.
Yep, it's awful. There's some awful, awful things in the world.
I would never understand child abuse. What is
I don't
wrong
understand
with
that
people?
either. Yeah, we were lucky.
If you have anger issues, if you want to take your anger out on somebody, don't let it be your child. And even if you are going to take your anger issues out on a child, don't let it be physical.
I think people can't, they go in such a rage, they can't control themselves, I think.
It's
I don't think anybody wants to do that ever, but...
some people just shouldn't be parents.
That's true. They always say you have to get a license to drive a car to catch a fish, but not to have a baby, not to have a kid.
It's horrible.
Yep.
That was a real letdown.
That was a real downer. It's hard to be excited and happy when you talk about a child that was beaten to death and left in a box and nobody missed him. Nobody was looking for him. That's even more sad.
Yeah, like nobody knew.
Nobody cared that he was gone.
That's
So his whole existence, 7 years or 6 years, were probably miserable. Poor kid. I think I could see it being the foster home or
I don't
the
want to say this
orphanage.
I don't want to say this because it sounds like mean, but I feel like he was like a little bit better off, like not
Being gone, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
because-
his life was probably not good.
Yeah.
Poor guy. Some people have it where it's just always remember you're lucky to have the life you have.
Thank you
have
for
you-
not abusing me and leaving me in a box.
Yeah, you're
in the
welcome.
woods.
You're welcome. That's the least I could do is not
That's like my biggest fear, like getting abandoned, like
getting
that.
abandoned and left in the woods.
Ugh. If I like got abandoned, I would literally just.
I
kill
promise
myself.
you right now, I will never abandon you and bludgeon you to death and leave you in a box in the woods. Okay?
Thank you.
Promise you.
That makes me feel so much better.
Yeah. Plus, you're almost done growing up anyway,
even
so
say
you don't
that.
have much
Don't
left.
even say
You're
that.
almost an old lady now, and I'm almost an old
Because
man.
like, I can't imagine myself like doing taxes and like going to work.
It's a lot easier than you think. But here's the thing. Now that I've promised you, now you have to promise me, because you're going to be taking care of me soon. Don't leave me abandoned in a box in the woods. Okay? You know, when I'm an old man, I can't do anything. I'm like, I like to hereby apologize to you, and it's recorded. I'm apologizing to you about whatever behavior
if you
I start having as an old
if
man.
you start pooping and peeing around my house like Ralphie does, I'm gonna make you smell it.
That's our dog, not my father, everybody. Thanks for listening to American Timelines. Rate, review, and subscribe, and tell us on Twitter if we're bad parents for letting our young daughter do this. Talk about awful murders.
and you should totally tell them to let me be on this podcast.
She
more.
wants to be on it more, but if you got a problem with Audrey, let us know. If you got a problem with me, let me know. If you want to
Who
send
would
us
have a
money,
problem with me?
I don't know. You never know. People get mad about all kinds of stuff. Thanks for listening, everybody. It's time to get out of here.
Chuck Berry.
Good job. You know who Chuck Berry is. All right, we're done.
Bye bye.
Matt Truman Ego Trip is the greatest band of all time. Buy their music.